This show is part of the RetroZap.com podcast network.
Now, prepare yourselves for a Starships, Sabers, and Scoundrels Special Edition.
Greetings, Scoundrels. This is Dennis, and I have my friend and co-host Darth Taxus with me. Taxus, what's going on this evening?
Greetings, everybody. Did some nice closet redesign. Had a little bit of chicken breast for dinner. Pretty good day. Yeah.
Yeah, we all strive to live vicariously through you. Mm-hmm. All right. So, without that out of the way, we've been wanting to discuss some comics for a while now, and with that in mind, we decided that we would talk a little bit about Darth Vader, the recent Burning Seas arc. Mm-hmm. Our third co-host, Jay Krebs, isn't current or up to date on these comics, so she's not going to join us tonight, but she'll be back on our next regular episode. Mm-hmm. So, Taxus, I know you were a little behind on your comics, but you caught up with what's going on in Darth Vader, and this is the series where the Emperor is decided he's going to make a statement to the galaxy, and he's sending the fleet to Mon Cala, and basically they're going to prove a point that you've got to fall in line. And Vader responds to the Emperor that I could lead such an attack or a mission, but I'm no longer a general. And the Emperor responds, well, I've got a different plan for you. He suspects that there is a Jedi influencing events on Mon Cala, so he's sending Vader and the Inquisitors. So that's kind of our setup, that the Empire is headed to Mon Cala to kind of whip the Mon Calamarians back into shape and subjugate the planet. What did you think overall about this episode, or issue, I should say? Okay,
so I didn't really know much about it until I basically opened the first page, and I saw kind of the setup and thought, oh, here it comes. We're finally going to get the story. Because, I referenced the West End Game books a lot, and back in the day, basically Mon Calamari, as I think they called the planet. Was it that? Not sure. But anyway, Mon Cala.
It's frequently referred to as Mon Calamari, and now it's Mon Cala.
Mon Cala, right. So, Mon Cala had like a pretty impenetrable shield defense system around the planet, and there was one Quarren traitor who lowered the shields and basically allowed the Empire to invade, And I wondered, are we going to see this here? But I was kind of surprised that we haven't so far, even though there's kind of allusions to that concept of the planetary shield, if you know what I'm saying. We'll explore that in a little bit. Overall, I am. This is still continuing to be greatness from Charles Soule. The writing's awesome. The storyline is incredible. I am completely bought into it, and I'm actually upset that we only have four issues so far. So
yeah, and I guess before we get too much farther, we should note that this is going to be a full spoiler discussion. Yeah. So this has been written by Charles Soule, who's been writing the Poe Dameron series, which is also very good. Giuseppe Camuncoli is doing the layouts, and Danielle Orlandini the finishes. So they're the artists. David Curiel is doing colors. Joe Caramagna is the lettering, and then the editorial staff was Heather Antos and Jordan D. White. This has been fantastic. One of the things I really like about this story is that it combines elements that we're familiar with from the Galactic Civil War area, the original trilogy. It's got stuff from the prequel area and the Clone Wars, more specifically, and then it makes allusions to other things that have been going on in the comics. Yep. For instance, Admiral Raddus and Admiral Akbar. Now they're not. I think. I'm not sure if Raddus is an admiral yet or not, but Akbar is
Raddus is an admiral, but Akbar is commander of the King's Guard.
Right, and so they're in this, and so we and then there's at one point Vader's talking to his Inquisitors, and he's talking about how he knows the strength of Lee Char and how he's this honorable guy, and that he's going to be tough for his people. Sure. And he's kind of having a flashback to those episodes of the Clone Wars where Lee Char became king, and Anakin, Ahsoka, a few other Jedi, and Padme made that mission to Mon Cala to help defend the planet from the Separatists, which was a really great flashback.
Yeah, that was great.
kind of gave you an idea of where Vader's head really was at this time. Well, he plays off that these days he's all about the dark side, he's all about the Emperor, and he's about serving the Emperor, but he still has these flashbacks where he's thinking about Padme.
Well, is this time before Lords of the Sith, time-wise?
Difficult to say. I don't really know if it is or not. I don't think I've seen this officially placed in the canon next to Lords of the Sith.
Because this is because in Lords of the Sith, I feel like that's when he kind of like really solidified himself on the dark side. You know what I mean? But that being said, if you look at some of the Star Wars and Darth Vader comics that take place after A New Hope, he still thinks back to Padme on a. And I would even go so far as to say it's not until like issue 24 Darth Vader when his suit's been shut down by Silo that he kind of knows that whole he has that vision of he's potentially dying. He has a vision of Padme who's telling him to come with me, and he's like, no, and then he rises back up and overcomes the Force. I forgot about that.
Yeah. But so. There's this Jedi running around on Mon Cala, kind of influencing events behind the scene, and he's an Iktachi. I guess that's how you pronounce that. Same species as Sassy Teen, or from Legends, Darth Taxus.
Yes.
So, what? I've got some opinions about this guy. What did you make of Master Bar?
Well, in the very beginning, you don't really, you just think, okay, he's just a cool Jedi who's hanging out and he's trying to help, the Mon Calas as much as possible, But, I don't know, my opinion quickly changed on him. And as we see progressing through these 4 episodes, I keep saying episodes, issues, he's got he's got a lot of ulterior motives to this, almost a revenge motivation. And, he's utilizing the Force in ways that I think the Jedi would frown upon, And
I completely agree with you.
And I thought at first that group of people he was with were other Jedi.
Yes.
But they're not. They're not. Nope. They're people that he duped into using the Force to help push them into it to join his mad cause. Yeah, I will call it a mad cause. However, at the end of episode 6, issue 16, it's pretty genius. Just his trick, what he does. You know what I mean?
Well, let's get to that in a second, but I want to touch on a couple of things you said there, because I completely agree with you. At the end of issue 13, which is the first Burning Seas Part 1, we just get this profile of a Jedi with his hood up talking to King Lichar, saying, we prepared for this, Your Majesty, and I know who it is coming. It's Anakin Skywalker. So somehow Bar knows who Anakin is. And we find out later that he spent some time slicing into the archives of the temple after Order 66 and has put this whole thing together. And so, great. Everything then seems wonderful that, he's a Jedi on the up and up. But then over the next couple issues, we see how he is he's a self-appointed liberator of the galaxy. Yeah. And he is kind of manipulating Mon Cala. He's there, he's encouraging this revolt, and it's to be some sort of a symbol. And he seems to be that his hope is that if he causes enough unrest across the galaxy, that the Emperor is going to get spread too thin and they can't fight everybody at once. Right. This is somehow going to work. I do not see the light side in this plan. Not at all. And then, when he was recruiting his disciples, it was what they're frequently referred to. Is it just me, or did a couple of those panels make it look like he was doing mind tricks?
He was.
These guys.
Yep, he was. He was using the Force to compel them.
And and then he was giving them, he was telling them what they wanted to hear. Yep. Someone's like, I want to make a difference. Well, if you come with me, I've seen it. You will. Yeah. And nothing could be further from the truth, because when the Inquisitors finally catch up to these guys, they're just getting slaughtered.
Yeah. However, and again, this is kind of a big question. Inadvertently, okay, well, let me back up. I feel like the only reason Mon Cala got into a military conflict with the Empire is because of him. I think that there probably was a peaceful resolution. We saw that the ambassador there, I feel like he really wanted a peaceful resolution.
Okay. Let me interrupt you.
Sure.
Are you, because this is an important part, so there's this ambassador
Yes.
that from the Empire that's negotiating with King Lee Char. The big issue is that the Kelpie, which is being harvested from Mon Cala, the Empire's taken too much of it from Mon Cala. And so,
they're not compensating them enough. Right.
Right. And then when the ambassador leaves to report back to the Empire, his shuttle blows up, which gives Vader and the Empire the excuse they need to kind of invade the planet.
I think it was shot out of the water. Like, there was a blast that came out of the water that hit it.
I couldn't tell from the panel. I looked at that again this evening, and I was trying to decipher if that's the case or not.
Right.
I was also looking at it on my phone, so that may have cut something off.
Sure.
But at any rate, the point being is that, do you think Master Bar had something to do with that shuttle blowing up?
I do. I actually do. I think he did. I think he was intentionally provoking hostilities between the two forces.
Okay.
Because that would help further his plan,
Yeah, I don't know. I'm looking at that panel now, and there's no missile trail.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
From,
I see that.
On the shuttle, but
the shuttle, it's the next panel down where the shuttle's hitting the water. I thought,
I see. I can see why you would think that. Yeah. So
I just don't feel like either the Mon Calamari or the Corrin would go against their king. You know what I mean? They all seem extremely loyal to him.
Oh, I completely agree. This is a setup of some kind.
Yep.
So, all right. So Vader and the Inquisitors are there to track down Master Bar, who, by the way, we also learned later when he confronts the Inquisitors that he was a Padawan at Order 66.
Yeah.
He was never promoted to Jedi Knight, let alone Master.
That's right.
At any point. So
sort of like Kanan. It's kind of weird, huh?
Yeah. Well, Kanan had a much better run of things, though.
Oh, hey, just got struck with a thought. What if the Empire were the ones that blew up their own shuttle?
Well, I'm thinking it's either Bar or the Empire. I think it has to be one or the other. I don't think we've not. If it ended up being a Mon Cala or a Mon Calamari or a Corrin, it's a character we haven't been introduced to yet, and I don't think that's what Charles Soule would do.
No,
that's not his style.
No.
But anyways, so let's look at the Inquisitors for a bit. Did you get a chance to read the Mace Windu miniseries?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. I didn't make that connection.
Okay, well, that connection you're speaking of is Proset Dibbs. He was one of the Jedi that was on Mace Windu's strike team in an early conflict in the Clone Wars. And over the course of that mission, he had a very serious disagreement with Mace and the Jedi Council and the role of the Jedi in this galactic civil war. And he felt so strongly about it that eventually he attacked Mace Windu over it and was kind of he was detained back on Coruscant after the mission was over. And now we find that post Order 66, he has been recruited as one of the Inquisitors. What do you make of that? I'm kind of struggling here with that. Is it he embracing the Sith teaching on this, or because it seems like if his objection back then was that the Jedi were the champions of the light side and the champions of the Force, and they were not supposed to have any role in this war, I'm not sure that this is the course correction for that.
I feel like that these characters, the brothers and the sisters, are not necessarily Sith acolytes. Like, they're not vying for Vader's position.
Sure.
I feel like they're more out for themselves. Like, they all have their own individual reasons why they disagree with the Jedi Order. Sort of like that character in the Darth Bane trilogy. What's his face? The guy that was kind of free and clear until Darth Xana found him.
Oh yeah. I don't remember his name, but there's basically he was just kind of he was a Jedi student that left the Order and is pursuing his own path, and
right.
Yeah, mainly a path of profit.
Right, and I kind of feel like these guys are sort of like that. They're not like yes, we're going to do this so we can learn more about the dark side and embrace it all. You know what I mean? They're doing it more for, let's look at the Grand Inquisitor, right? He just wanted to read through the archives. You know what I mean? That was kind of one of his motivations, So
sure, but then he went so far off the Jedi path in order to do that. And, Proset Dibs had a very specific objection, which is we don't have any business fighting in this war. And and so now he's an Inquisitor, and their job is to basically wipe out the Jedi and the Resistance in this galaxy. And sure, it may be a revenge motive, but that doesn't seem in keeping with his stated objection to the Jedi.
That's what you're saying.
Yeah. I understand they can have all different motivations, and I agree with you on that point. It's just I'm wondering if the point here was that Dibs is a bit more hypocritical than what he was letting on, or maybe it is that his frustration and his anger with the Jedi Council has completely colored his view and prevented him from being reasonable about this, and so he's gone way past where they did to wipe out the Jedi, because they're all bad. They're all in on the High Council's objections here. So of course, one of the big parts of this, these issues has nothing to do with Jedi or Vader, for that matter. It's this whole conflict between Mon Cala and the Empire. So, the Empire lands their forces. That starts happening at the beginning of issue 2, or the second issue of this arc, I should say, which is issue 14. And the conflict really gets going then. What did you think about Lee Char's solution to wiping out the Imperial forces on the surface?
Oh, yeah, sure. It was sort of like the concept of burning Earth, right?
Right.
You're just removing your enemy's ability to wage an effective war.
Yeah. More specifically, it was he summoned these whales from the depths of Mon Cala. They just, they came from the bottom of the ocean, and they breached, and they caused these tidal waves that just wiped everything out.
Right. But that was at the suggestion of Barr, though, right? So he knew after Vader and the Inquisitors have landed, they were hoping to wipe out Vader and everything with that.
Well, sure. Yeah. And of all the things that Barr does, I can almost excuse that, because the tactic is that the Quarren and the Mon Cala Mari can survive in the ocean. They don't have to be on the surface, but it's a little bit more difficult for the Imperial troops. So I understand the tactic, but for me, I was just this whale motif that we got going on. We saw was it the Purgles that were in Rebels? And of course they're in the finale, and now we've got whales on Mon Cala as well. Yeah. And so Mon Cala puts up a pretty good fight against Gale Akbar, or Gal, is how do they pronounce his name in this? He kind of leads the Mon Cala forces in their fight against the Empire that's going on. And then on the opposite side, you have Tarkin, who's running everything. Speaking of Tarkin, he spends a fair amount of time earlier in this story arc talking about how he prefers a diplomatic solution to everything that's going on, because it's an empire, and the Empire is not about what they can destroy; it's about what they can control, and that Mon Cala's got valuable resources. So, to that end, I'm wondering if that may not be the clue we need to say that it wasn't really the Empire that blew up that shuttle. Or maybe it was the Sith aspect that blew up that shuttle to justify things, but I don't think it was the
I don't think
Imperial.
It was Tarkin. No,
I don't think it was. I don't think it was the Imperial Navy and Tarkin. I think our suspects for that are down to Barr on the one side and Vader and the Inquisitors on the other.
Yes. I mean, because Vader can do whatever. We've seen how much power he has through the Force here, right? So I wouldn't put it past him to have actually caused the shuttle to self-destruct, somehow. But I'm kind of shocked by, I don't know, is this an early kind of Tarkin that we're seeing where he's not like, fear will keep the, local systems in line or whatever. I mean, he's actually trying to look out for the citizens of the Empire. You know what I mean? He's trying to come to a peaceful resolution to this because he realizes, hey, it does nobody good to waste men, materials, women too, and all that stuff on a senseless war when we can reach a diplomatic agreement, you know?
That's an interesting way of looking at it. To me, it was that there was too much on Mon Cala that they wanted, for one thing.
True.
And two, if you go back to the beginning of the issue 13, Vader and the Emperor are having this conversation where the Emperor is talking about how they need to make an example out of Mon Cala, and Vader says something to the effect of, or asks, oh, so the weapon is ready. And he's referring to the Death Star, and the Emperor responds, no, Krennic and his scientists are still working on it. Well, this takes place just a couple years after Revenge of the Sith, so the Death Star is still another 15 or so years away.
Oh, yeah.
And I guess the point I'm trying to make there is that, once Tarkin has that, he goes all in on this whole we can rule by fear, because who's going to stand up to our battle station?
Exactly.
As opposed to we can make a point here. We want the resources. We want the Kelpie. We want, we're trying to subjugate Mon Cala, and we're going to make it terrible for them if they, we can do this by diplomacy, and they can get in line, or we can, we can make a point. This is that one officer that points out, it's like, with all due respect, why are we making all these plans? We are on a battleship, specifically designed to bombard planets. So why don't we just bombard the planet and put an end to this? And that's when he explains that this is an empire. We're defined about what we can control, not about what we destroy.
Plus, Mon Cala is naturally defended by the wonderful water that surrounds. So it would be very hard to bombard that.
Well, you say that, but then, switching series for a second, if you haven't read this week's issue of Star Wars 49, this is a little bit of a spoiler, but one of the Mon Calamarians does something, and he knows there's going to be retribution for it, and he no sooner says that, and the Empire does bombard right through the ocean and destroys his underwater ocean floor home. With him in it. So
technological advances. I don't know.
Well, this is an interesting point you brought up, Taxus, because now I'm wondering, they made they had this big discussion that they were evacuating all the citizens off these surface cities. DAC was one of them, and that they're going to get them into the ocean, they were going to get them to the floor, and then they would be safe.
Sure.
And that's not the case in Star Wars 49. At least, well, maybe it is because they're in caves or something like that, and they're not easily targeted on the ocean floor. Whereas this character, I'm trying to avoid spoils out because we're not specifically talking about the series, but mainly for our listeners, whatever.
Yeah, I don't care. Spoil away. Give me that bad milk.
But at any rate, this is a character that everyone should know where they are. But anyway,
okay.
So there's that. But so what else? What else about this series so far has stood out to you?
The end. The end. I thought it's not the end, but the fourth issue of the series. Mm-hmm. Where we see Vader survives the attack by the whales. He survives an attack by a giant squid-like thing and actually compels it to take him to the surface, Right. Which, hey.
Let me ask you a question about that. Because that squid kind of falls apart. Is that because it's depressurizing, or what was your take on that?
I didn't know if it was... I want to say it was depressurizing. I want to say it took Vader up so fast that it kind of ripped itself apart. Mm-hmm. But I went back and read it again, and I was like, wait a minute, did Vader intentionally do that? You know what I mean? So I don't know. In my mind, that's a question we need to ask the writer. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
sure.
What happened there? But so after that, he gets picked up in the sub by the Inquisitors, and he's like, all right, let's go get the king or something. And so they're all on their way.
He lectures them on that because they came to get him as opposed to going and finishing off the Jedi.
Yeah, right. He's like, fools, you should have done that. Your emperor's will, right? So they're in the middle of trying to get the king. And at this point, I feel like the king is actually being manipulated by the Force, or through the Force, by the Jedi. You know what I mean? He's making decisions that I feel Radis and even Akbar is like, okay. You know what I mean? And I don't know, that's one of the things about Bar. I just kind of, one of the things about Bar, it just kind of felt like he's using the Force to manipulate the king, you know, to...
Right. I whether he's using the Force or not, he's definitely manipulating the king.
Yeah.
I really question Bar's abilities in the Force. I think he has at least some standard abilities that you expect out of a Jedi. You know, be able to force pull and grab and do that type of thing. And he's been able to use some Jedi mind tricks. I think the King's got a little bit too much of a will, is strong-minded necessarily to fall to those type of mind tricks. Right. But he's relying on Bar's advice about what to do. And I think Bar has held himself out as a Jedi Master, which is false, and having foreseen things to the Force, which he hasn't seen, and is lying to Lee Char that this is how we need to do it. I mean, this goes back to that conversation we were having at the beginning, is that, you know, Lee Char thinks that, you know, hey, I've got someone who's in tune with the Force, and they've told me we can win this, we can stand up. And he not only is he protecting Mon Cala, he believes that he's striking a blow for the whole galaxy.
Yep, because that's what the Jedi thinks. You know,
and so they get put in a bad position on this. I don't know. I really do not. Okay, I do not like Bar because of his actions here. I think Charles Soule has written him incredibly well. And done a fantastic job with that.
So the king, during the whale attack, he gets kind of injured and he's lost. But then Quarren finds him, and they're like, "It's our king." You know what I mean? And that's part of the thing that I was talking about earlier, where I was like, okay, I was interested to see if the Quarren would betray, you know, the Mon Cals or anything like that. But no, I haven't seen that so far, and it's kind of refreshing. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
they're all unified. You know,
right? Because they did that during the Clone Wars. They had they've developed that unity, and there's that one Imperial propaganda officer who is suggesting that they start that propaganda campaign, and that they could divide a rift. They could create a rift between the two, and it doesn't work, or at least they didn't get that far.
So the king's in hiding, kind of, and he's also. The reason he was so injured is because Vader and the Inquisitors were torturing him. Forgot about that. So they could find the discovered location of the Jedi. So, okay, the king's rescued. He's safe. They're all heading towards the king, and then... No, the Jedi. They're going towards the Jedi, and then Tarkin reaches out to Vader. You know?
Yes.
Yeah, Lord Vader, I have a request for you. You know, kind of thing. And Vader's like, okay, well, what's in it for me? And Tarkin basically...
not part of your command.
He reasons with him, look, you know, the Emperor wants this to happen militarily. This is the best way to have it happen. Go find the king. So Vader's like, okay, I'll go find the king. So he separates with the Inquisitors, right?
Right.
The Inquisitors go on. They find the hidden group of Jedi-esque resistance, right?
Well, Vader's with them when they first catch up to Bar and his disciples, and then after they've taken out a few of those disciples, that's when Vader gets summoned over by Tarkin to help out, because Tarkin promises him a favor.
That's true.
That, you know, I'll be on your debt, which was quite interesting.
Yes, and so that was when it was brilliantly portrayed how Bar convinced each one of these rebels to join up with his cause. You know, because at the moment of their death, it would do a flashback to how they joined him, you know. And finally, the Inquisitors, including a bunch of stormtroopers, finally cornered Bar and I think one other, the wife of the husband and wife team.
Right.
And this is what I thought was brilliant about Bar. Okay, this was his big move. He wanted to capture them all here, right? And he points out, all of you are former Jedi. But before, you know, and while he's doing that, he rips all the helmets off of the troopers using the Force, of course. The Force is a force, of course, you know, Dennis. And so
no one can use the Force like a horse, of course.
That's right. So he ends up, he looks at him, he's like, just what I thought, young clones. In other words, they haven't had that chip in their head fire off to say, execute Order 66. And we're left with that. We're left with him saying, most of you or all of you were former Jedi. You know, so execute Order 66. And I feel like he's using his one major Force power that he's very good at, which is persuasion. Okay?
Right.
Using the Force. to get in the minds of the clones. So I'm really fascinated to see what happens. And of course, he's a Jedi, so they're going to also attack him, you know?
Yeah. I'm curious to see how that plays out as well, because I didn't think just anyone could execute Order 66.
Right.
Now, like you said, the illustration, the art that goes with that panel seems to indicate that there's some sort of little force maneuver that he's doing there to activate that. But I always kind of got the impression that only the Emperor could, or then the Chancellor of the Republic could order 66 and have the clones execute that. So it'll be interesting to see how exactly that plays out in the conclusion. So, and that you won't have to wait long for that after you listen to this, because that is due on June 13th.
Yes.
So, this has been fun. It's a really incredible series. If you haven't been reading it, and even after having heard our spoiler discussion, I still recommend you go out and pick out those issues and at least get the conclusion of it, because Charles Soule and Kevin Coley and the whole team over there has done a fantastic job. But
Ryder Waldron, we're talking to you. Catch up, okay?
Right. So that'll do it for our review of the first 4 issues of the Burning Sea story arc. But before we go, you have anything else going on for the Scoundrels to look forward to?
Got an episode of The Geek Supreme coming out this Tuesday. Have no idea what it's about yet, because, I don't know.
You haven't recorded it yet?
That too, and, last minute stuff. But I know Regina Davis was the Geek Supreme from the last episode, and her power was to compel, much like Master Barr could do, Scott and Jeff to experience something in her geekdom. And I believe she picked, drumroll please, My Hero Academia, episodes 1 through 3, where we see the foundation of what builds a true hero. So it'll be interesting to hear their take on that, because I am a big My Hero Academia P1, and I really think anybody out there listening to this, if they love true superhero stories, should just get over it and watch this, because this is one of the greatest superhero stories that I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out. I haven't done so yet. But
you'll love it, dude. I'm serious.
Okay. Well, make sure you look out for the latest from Jay Krebs on Coffee with Kenobi, both her blog and her Core Worlds Couture column. That's kind of been on a hiatus with her end of the recent school year, but she's promising that she'll get back to that. As for me, I have some recent comic reviews on RetroZap, including Lando, Double or Nothing #1, Dr. Aphra #20, and Star Wars 49. And then on the June edition of Jedi Journals, I was talking with Jovial J. Shepard about the latest trade paperback collecting the Legend Found story arc and the annual for Poe Dameron, which is there was a lot of fun to discuss. So you can find that over on the ForceNet feed. If you want to find us on social media, we are at SQPod on Twitter and Instagram, and on Facebook at facebook.com/SQPod. You can email us at sqpod@retrozap.com. You can follow Darth Taxus on Twitter at Darth Taxus. Jay is at Joyce Krebs, and I am DJKVER2. Also, as we've been talking about recently, do not forget about our the RetroZap Discord server. We've been over there talking a lot. There's been a lot of celebration discussion lately. There's been a lot of discussion around Solo on the Starship Sabers and Scoundrels forum over there on Discord under the RetroZap page. We've had an interesting discussion about whether or not the Force was guiding Han Solo. So there's a lot going on there. All the writers and podcasters are taking part in that. It's been a lot of fun. It's been a really great community. So kind of a safe haven in what's kind of been a toxic environment social media wise for Star Wars lately. But
if you want to get away from all that, you want to just have some fun talking to some people that just enjoy talking and discussing and cussing about Star Wars together without getting into each other's grill, do it. Go out there, find it. Also, we've had a lot of good...
the link will be in the show notes for this episode.
Yeah, and we've had a lot of good fun exchanging grilled cheese recipes. Just saying, I add bacon. Try it out. It's great.
That must be on the secret page, because I haven't seen that. But
that's on the grilled cheese page that I hide.
Gotcha. All right. Well, speaking of RetroZap, we are a proud part of the RetroZap.com podcast network. The network currently features 20 shows, so you can subscribe to the network feed and get them all.
Yep.
that's going to do it for this Scoundrels Special Edition. We'll talk to you all soon with another edition of Starships, Sabers, and Scoundrels. Until then, may the Force be with you.
Toodles!